So, well, again, it would almost all be set up. I mean, they're probably trying to help get the ball up rather than understand that when you have 60 degrees of loft on a golf club, that's more than enough to get the ball up out of a bunker. So you don't need to help the ball up. You've just got to understand, how do I return the club to the ball correctly? Now, this is where I would use more of a setup that is maybe against my natural tendencies. So I would stand a little bit wider. You'd probably have the handle behind the centre, so it wouldn't be in front. Let me get a club out just to explain this. So you wouldn't be setting up like this, you'd be setting up this way, so that you want the club working more that way, so that you are using the bounce. You don't want the leading edge driving in the bunker for certain. It's different to chipping and pitching. You can get away with it chipping and pitching, almost impossible to get away with it out of the bunker. So you do need to be having the bounce, and just by changing your setup you can almost enforce that happens naturally. So and then keep the speed up, keep the speed up, don't be afraid, don't try to help the ball up, just focus on the ball, keep the speed up, make sure the setup's good, and over time it should get better, and if it doesn't, then you might have to consider another sport. Well, I mean, there could be so many reasons as to why they're slicing it, I guess. It would often probably be a reflection of a poor setup. I mean, I can only tell you what I would do if I was beginning to slice the ball, and it would have to be, look at the setup, look at everything like that, and then maybe imagine that there's like a wall on the left side, so that you can't swing left. The thing is, when you start, it can be quite counterintuitive, golf, because you have to almost do the opposite feeling-wise of what you would think you have to do to improve the ball flight. So if you're slicing, theoretically you're coming over the ball, so you need to stop coming over the ball. So you need to almost imagine sometimes that there's something here in your way stopping you, so that you have to swing more out at the ball. Tiger Woods, the best story I've heard with Tiger Woods when he used to struggle was he used to apparently practice just hitting big high blocks with his driver. And what that would do would improve his transition, so get his arms more deep on the transition. Now he'd be hitting blocks for a while, but gradually it would come in. So there's little things like that you can do. It's very simple that can ultimately help your slice, but you need to forget about the ball for a certain period of time. The best thing I could say, and I heard this from Ricky Fowler, I think, was where he said he just reads the last part of the putt first. So look at the last 3 feet on the putt and say, what's it going to do at the hole? What's it going to do as the ball is dying of speed? And then work your way back, because then it helps you really visualize that putt. That's one thing I do find that has definitely helped me a little bit. Well, something that amateurs are useless at, I mean, it's fair to say. When I've played Pro-Ams and I've seen guys, I mean, it's a Pro-Am, I'm sure they're not taking it that seriously, I know that. With different animals, we have to take it seriously. But, if you are focused on being a serious golfer and you want to really get your handicap down, then just by applying some pretty simple course management strategies, taking trouble out of play, your handicap will come down because you'll be in less trouble. Having said that, golf for many people is a hobby, and so you want to have fun. You should be out there trying to drive par fours, trying to take on the crazy shot, because that's the sort of stuff you're going to talk about in the pub that night with your friends. And remember, so if you want to shoot a lower score, then you can definitely always manage your ball better, just to avoid hitting it in trouble. Keep the ball in play. It's the simplest strategy. I'm quite different with my chipping, because I have quite a lot of handle drag from the top. So if you were chipping, you would really just want the club head to be following. You'd want very little wrist breakdown, you'd want little shift, it'd be quite simple looking motion. But we all know how hard that is to achieve when you've got the ball sitting there on a bit of mud or whatever, it's difficult. So I do react a bit this way with my chipping. So I've had to learn techniques to implement to help me with that, so that it would make sure my strike's good. Now, there aren't many guys on tour, I would say, that chip like that. A lot of them chip using the bounce quite nicely. So exactly, you hear that term all the time, use the bounce. I have quite a sharp leading edge because I chip this way, so I have to make sure that I'm rotating and getting the butt coming, the butt of the shaft coming into my body quite early relative to guys out here. Yeah, I was taught chipping growing up, ball back, lean on it, so I've always had that kind of I've had to learn, right, that's my nature. I've grown up playing like that. How can I improve that rather than changing it ball up using bounce? I'm never really going to be that comfortable doing that, so sticking with what I do. But how do I, so Sergio or Ricky Fowler would be the two guys I would watch chip, because again, they're quite leany, they handle the drag, they drag the handle quite a lot, but they do it in such a way where they still chip very well. But that's because I chip like that, so that's who I would watch. Whereas Luke Donald, I mean, he's your perfect chipper. He'd be the guy you'd want to go and watch, someone like Luke Donald, because is perfect. That's the thing, and with YouTube around, it's amazing just watching something, how it can, I mean, the Luke Donald masterclass tutorials I've seen on YouTube, I think the Mizuno ones actually, are awesome. I mean, just watch that, it's brilliant. But hey, I'm 27, I'm well far gone, I'm so far gone. I'm deep in the woods in trouble, so I need to just find my way out of the woods, and get there myself. Keep your eyes still, I always think it's a good one. Keep the eyes still. Set up is so important. If you're setting up well to a putter and to the ball, your short putting I don't think will ever be bad. Now, that's not to say you're going to hold lots of long putts, because there are a number of variables. There are way more variables in long putting and medium range putting than there are short putting. So, setting up correctly, making sure your face alignment's pretty good, using a simple mirror. We all have them out here just to make sure eyes are in a good spot, nothing's crazy going on with the ball position, and then eyes still, and your short putting will be pretty good. It will never be bad. You might miss one, of course, everyone misses short putts here and there, but we just blame the greens when we miss short putts. It's simple, or the caddy, Well, the most obvious thing is you've got to hit the ball harder. If you want to hit it further, you've got to swing it harder. Or you go about changing your shape. So for me, I don't hit the ball very far really at all relative to some of the guys out here, but I play with a fade that's probably spins a little bit more than the tour average. If I was to try and hit the ball further, I would look to try and draw it and take the spin down. I'm not trying to swing it harder, I'm just trying to swing it differently, and I know the ball flight laws will give me more eventual distance. But that's difficult to do because that's a different swing. Yeah. So you've got to be comfortable being able to do that on the golf course, which I'm probably not that comfortable doing that. So I'm happy just to stay with what I've got, and if it's not as good as some of the others, well, whatever, I can live with that. But if you are serious about gaining distance, then the number one thing is you just got to swing it harder and hit the ball harder. It's swing it faster. Sorry, you got to swing it faster and hit the ball. Make sure you keep middle in the golf ball. Really, you want to be middle in the ball. Middle to toe strike would be optimal for distance, I would say. So I feel that the number one factor when it comes to the actual striking of a ball, forgetting direction for the moment, but the way you're striking the ball, it's a reflection of the sequencing in your golf swing. So the order in which things are moving. So if you can tell even of the top players when they're not playing well and when they are playing well, because their swing will actually appear different on the camera, because things will be moving in slightly different order. So, I think you want your arms to move a little, you want your arms to move, you don't want your body to outrace your arms. Likewise, you don't really want your arms to outrace your body. It's all got to be in the correct order. Now, we're all different, but I would say find something that can help you improve your sequencing. There's things I've used in the past, like the orange whippy ball, quite good for that, because you feel the weight, so that you learn to wait for the weight, exactly. And that's important because you don't want to outrush the club head. The club head, remember, has to move. I think of the golf strikers, it's like this. You've got to be hitting it with a square face. You imagine there's a brick wall, you want to be hitting the wall with the squarest face possible. You can't do that if you're here, and you can't do it if you're there, so you have to find a way. I have a specific drill which I use, which I call a reroute drill, where I set the club up outside the ball, and I have to reroute to hit the ball. Now, if I get quick with my body, I'll miss the ball. So it slows my body down, because I'm a particular player that my body moves very quick. So I have to practice the opposite of that to find my nice middle ground. Hey, we're all different. So I mean, there's 101 different things that I've done in my career to try and improve my ball striking. But it's important that you focus, I think, on the sequencing aspect of the golf swing, and that will improve your striking. Yeah. That, as I would do, go back to what I was alluding to earlier. When you strike something like that, when you strike a match, you don't slice it. You don't try to manipulate it. You try to get something with pure friction, and that's what spin is. So when you have the ball here, you want the ball to be hitting the contact in the face in its purest way. So that's, to me, as far as I can tell, that's with a pretty square face and a slightly on an angle of attack that would be slightly down, probably, although you can still create spin on a neutral strike, but you're probably not going to if you're hitting up. You want to be hitting a little bit down, but you want to make sure that face is square to the ball. So you don't want it glancing across the ball. You don't want to be moving the club face this way or that way. It needs to be coming into the ball. And that's the thing. People would try and spin the ball more by just cutting it, and you can do that to a degree, but it's not the kind of spin you want. You want a straight flight with spin, right? And to do that, it's going to require a nice square face onto the ball. So, I've always loved the idea of, although the image of the wall up, you've got the wall, you just got to, how am I going to get striking it like square to square, how am I going to do that? And just visualizing that all the time, I think, is just quite handy. Well, I probably spend, if I have 100 balls, I'll hit 100 balls a day usually when I practice. I'll hit no more. And of that 100, I would probably say at least 60 are drills. So I might, in a warm-up, if I hit 50 balls in a warm-up, I'd probably 20 of those, 25 are actual golf shots that I will maybe replicate. The rest is all drills for me. I'm trying to just focus on a couple of things. Whatever I'm focusing on that day, or I feel I need to focus on, I'm doing a drill to improve that. Because, I'm not going to go out there and forget how to swing the golf club. I don't need to hit 500 balls a day. I've hit 500,000 probably in my life. So it's about making sure, for me, the little things are there in place so that I can go and play really well at this level.